That's the super abbreviated version.
What about your childhood? Were you traumatized at all, or you got any good trauma to talk about? So what advice would you give, young men and women that are trying to seize the opportunity when it's the luck shows? Like, growing up to their age
Um,
18, however old you want to start at.
yeah, my stuff is so cringe, and it might just because I have super ADHD and nobody likes to hear it. If I could go back in time and give myself like one, like you have to do this thing, I would say like at the very least.
What do you think about race? Well, scientifically speaking, right? Like at first, I didn't get any good videos from you. I was like, I just don't like this guy. And then I saw one that was a really good take from you, and I was like, wow, finally a take I like. And then the algorithm just gave me a whole bunch of them I liked.
What was
And I
the
was
one
like,
you
well,
saw that you were like, oh, I like this video or whatever? I'm curious. Are you in Miami?
no, I'm in New Smyrna.
What is that a country or a planet? Wait, where you at?
No, like 5 hours from you.
Oh, okay.
I'm East Coast, but I'm just by Central Florida.
Gotcha,
Or Central
gotcha.
Orlando, I mean.
I've only ever seen that the pink neon shit. Usually there's like grass behind it. I see it like in every restaurant in Miami. I don't know if it was like a Miami thing or not, or maybe it's a Florida thing.
No, I got it made for my wife and I's podcast thing, Beauty and the Bold. It was going to be Beauty and the Bald, but my management company, they didn't like the idea because they had Bald and Beautiful already on one of their
Oh,
podcasts.
sure.
So I was like, well, I might not always be bald. I might get hair surgery, but then I changed my mind. So I was just like Beauty and the Bold. And in this scenario, I'll be the beauty and you'll be the bold.
Okay.
Not funny.
I can be
I was
bold.
trying to be funny.
No, you're good.
But yeah, I'm Deece. That's what I go by. Our channel is TheCampisis. We do parody comedy. I grew up watching Married with Children, stuff like that.
Okay.
I grew up around a lot of construction workers. A lot of misogynist men.
Sure.
So I just used that, and made comedy out of it. It just kind of dealing with the trauma in my own way. And my wife's always been a willing participant. So we've had a lot of fun doing it. And then I never thought in a million years that it was going to go viral on TikTok. And then it did. And then I post on YouTube. And then I post on every other platform. And it kind of just went viral. So I'm more of an outsider looking in at you guys like you, Sneeko, Tristan, Andrew, Hassan, all those people. I'm always spectating. And I was like, I want to get in the arena,
Yeah.
So I started reaching out to people and you answered. So thank you very much.
Yeah. What do you how long have you guys been doing the YouTube stuff for on TikTok? Like when did you start?
3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And then YouTube 2 years ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you know I there's like a lot of friends that I have like that kind of through really weird ways on like the YouTube and the TikTok world that want to get more involved in this kind of stuff, which is funny because I always considered like what I do like this is like the ultra nerdy shit on the internet, and then everything else is like really hip. Yeah, now I've got like random people from TikTok and stuff who are like, oh, like we should debate, like I want to get into this, or like, oh, there's a bunch of people like the No Jumper Studio that are like, we want to talk about more serious issues and everything, and it's just kind of interesting that everybody wants to jump back over to this space for a little bit.
Well, this is where I originally tried to go. I've been trying to do this for 11 years and nobody listened to me until I made stupid videos.
Sure.
Like, I mean, that's the only way I ever got the attention that I was, the validation I need. No, I'm just kidding. But
Yeah. Listen, I'm a content creator too. I know all about that validation, okay?
yeah, it feels good sometimes.
Yeah.
No, you're 34 though.
Yeah, I am. 34
you went to
years
college,
young.
right?
I did go to college, but I dropped out because I was working too much. Or depending on who you talk to, because I was a f***ing loser. So, it just depends on what angle you want to take.
No, well, yeah. I went to college. I dropped out because I got hit by a car. So I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay, are you just going to one-up me the whole conversation? Or I got hit by a truck, actually. Okay, I got hit by one car and then, well, hold on. Actually, now your accent might be really serious and I feel like an asshole. Tell me about your car accident. What happened?
No, I was driving a motorcycle. Girl wasn't paying attention. Pulled out in front of me. Broke my leg. And I was in college and I just couldn't. I hated going to crutches and going to school, and I just stopped going. And I think I made a mistake, but I mean, it worked out in the end. I feel like I'm pretty happy with where I am in life. So
cool. What? Not the getting hit, but that everything worked out. Yeah.
So you're 30. You're 34. This is something that's been intriguing me to when were you around when the Zeitgeist Addendum and Peter Joseph and all that was going on? Were you paying attention then?
When you say the Zeitgeist Addendum, what are you talking about?
Peter Joseph talks about a resource-based economy, an RBE, and he got it from a man named Jacques Fresco in the Venus Project, which is down in Florida Bayou. It's in Venus, Florida.
I don't think so.
Because I only see clips, so I actually want to kind of get to know you and not assume and everything like a lot of people do on the internet.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I remember like, geez, was it like 12? No, like 10 years ago, there was like a short film that was passed around on like on a URL, and it was called like, I think, The Zeitgeist. Unless that was it. Is
Yes,
that it? Oh,
yes.
okay. Oh, yeah, I
It was
remember
talking
hearing
about
about it, but I never like watched it or anything. Yeah.
That's right, because everyone in the comment section is, Destiny's a socialist, he's a communist, he's this, he's that, and I don't think that's probably, I want to know what you are, like what you believe in.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
just interested.
I'm very, very far left, but I'm absolutely not a socialist or communist. No.
Well, I mean, me personally, the way technology is going and how it's growing and how it's adapting, and the technology has beaten the man. So, I mean, to be far left at this point isn't necessarily wrong in a lot of aspects, because not everyone's going to be able to have a job soon. And there's going to have to be, well, I mean, the jobs may change into like content creation and what they've adapted to and changed to now. But I've always been interested in people discussing, what are we going to do when the technology has taken most of the hard jobs and most of the tedious jobs, and AI and the way it's to go in, you don't even need an accountant anymore.
I think people talk about this a lot. Have you ever heard of something called the lump of labor fallacy?
No.
There's for the longest time, I keep making this. I think I read this. I think even Marx was talking about how cotton looms would basically make it so that like everybody's gonna have an abundance of time. It feels like every time we're on the precipice of some new technology, everybody's thinking like, oh my god, like we're gonna have we finally live in a post-scarcity society. There's an abundance of productive machines. Like people aren't gonna have to worry about it. But it seems like we always find more work to do. So I don't know if we'll ever truly run out, but I guess maybe we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, and so. And flip it on another angle is like you look at the auto industry, right? They had so many laborers for so long, but yet the technological advances have been so significant, they have less labor, but yet the prices have skyrocketed through the roof. So I would say that's probably something you don't agree with.
Don't agree that the prices have gotten higher. Don't agree that
the prices should get higher. They should be less. If technology advances, or are you saying the money and research that goes into that technology is why the price is higher?
You know anything about like software development or anything, or?
No, I'm kind of stupid.
No, well, it's not stupid. Damn.
Well, I know. I just fun to say that.
Yeah. No, you're good. There's like like computers don't feel like they're ultra fast compared to what they used to be, even though the hardware has gotten so much better. And the feeling, I guess, like maybe things just haven't gotten better. It might be like a feeling or a takeaway you have. But the reality is that even though the hardware's gotten better, the software's gotten like infinitely more complex. And there's a lot of stuff going on now under the hood that we don't necessarily see every day, that makes the software we use today way more like robust and everything than the software we used to use in the past. I think for cars, it's similar. I think we probably take for granted that like cars today are way, way, way better than the cars in the past. It probably doesn't feel that way. But like as like one metric, for instance, I want to say when I was growing up in like in the 2000s, I think it was pretty rare for small cars to get like 5-star safety ratings from like the sides if they would get hit in car accidents. But now like every single car is like 5-star safety ratings from like every single angle. I think there's probably a lot of like under the hood improvements like that we don't necessarily see. So it feels like, why is the same car that I'm getting today that I could have gotten, 20 years ago, why is it still, $5,000, $10,000 more expensive? It's probably because of a lot of those types of improvements, I would imagine. I
can see that. And then the other end would be TVs, for instance. TVs used to be really expensive, but the technological advances and how they build them has gotten so cheap. But sometimes I think of those metrics as like, well, the reason why TV are cheaper is because that's where everyone consumes media, and they need to be cheaper, and they want people watching TVs. They want them easily accessible, whereas cars wouldn't be the same situation from that aspect, at least.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I think the technologies legitimately get cheaper too. I'm sure you remember the how quickly the rise and fall of plasma screen TVs were. I don't even know if Zoomers know about those anymore. Plasmas were the shit, and I feel like they came and went in the course of like 2 to 3 years, maybe even less. They were getting really cheap, and then LCDs started to come up. It was like LCDs are way too expensive, and then it's like, oh wait, never mind, plasmas don't even exist anymore. So I don't know. I think the technologies are we make pretty significant changes, and things come and go, but. Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing would be CDs, for instance. We went from tape to CDs, then straight to the iPod and MP3 players.
Yeah.
Similar aspect there. What is your background though? Is it just? I mean, what brought you all the way here? Where you are.
I'm what you call a Wikipedia warrior.
Okay.
No, I guess I did. I went to school for music. I failed school because I was working too much, and then I worked, and then eventually I wound up in streaming. a friend suggested a long time ago. He's like, hey, remember we used to play games in the hallways and stuff? It was always like super funny. You should do that like on stream. There weren't very many people streaming at that point, like some weird Korean kids and a couple of shows. And I was like, okay, let's see if we can figure this out. And then I started streaming. It was pretty funny. Then I just kept that up for 12 years. And here I am. That's the super abbreviated version.
What about your childhood? Were you traumatized at all, or you got any good trauma to talk about?
I mean, that's debatable. We all kind of do, don't we?
Yeah, but you seem like you're a hard worker. I mean, you're working your ass off.
There's probably two combinations of things going on there. One is that I've been pretty independent since I was 16. My mom moved when I was like, I think like 14, 15. My dad moved when I was like 15, 16. So I've always kind of been on my own. So it's kind of like a do or die, basically, is how it works. Like you either keep working until you're dead or until you've got enough money to pay your bills. So I've always had like a good, like I can dump a ton of hours into something if I need to, if I have to survive. It's not like anybody's gonna help me. And then, but what I do for work today is stuff that I really, really like. So I can work a ton, and it is work, but it's also fun, right? It's unironically, it's that. I'm sure you feel to some extent similar about the YouTube. It's like find your passion, and then you'll never have to work a day in your life or whatever. Which is it kind of fits with the streaming stuff, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is if I hear you guys talk about gender roles and all that and the exception. I've heard you on Pearl's podcast and different areas. It's been pretty exciting. And my wife and I have been making videos recently with the Beauty and the Bold theme, talking about marriage and the relationships that we have. And my wife was going on talking about, make sure that when you're picking a partner and you want kids, make sure that's something that she's willing to sacrifice for, because in the modern day now, it's not the 1960s anymore. A woman having children at a young age is ultimately sacrificing her career opportunities at that time. I mean, she can always go back to it when she's 30 or whatever. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of men that would come in there and be like, you're not making a sacrifice. The man's making a sacrifice to work 16 hours a week. But then from my point of view, if you aren't working 16 hours a week without kids, do you really want to be great, or do you really want to be that successful? So for me, I'm going to work 16 hours regardless, with or without kids. Now, I'm lucky that I had a partner who bought into what I was saying and wanted what I wanted, and she was like, I'm willing to take care of the kids while you do this and pull us along, because I'm pretty much the brain trust behind our whole channel. Mm-hmm. She does her role perfectly whenever she can, but she takes care of the kids most of the time, and that to me is a bigger sacrifice than me ever working 16 hours. I mean, I don't understand. Screaming kids, holding in my arms and all that is just not necessarily fun for me.
Sure.
Like I'd rather work, and that's not a sacrifice to me,
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a healthy way to view the different roles that people can take in relationships, especially traditional ones. I feel like sometimes when I hear people talk about traditional relationships, it seems like they shit on the women role a lot. Like man provides resources and women just consume. And it's like, well, the only reason we feel that way is because you don't usually pay your wife for taking care of kids. But it definitely is exhausting. It can be exhausting work, yeah.
You have one kid?
Yeah, one child. He lives in Nebraska right now. I moved, I think, about 3 years ago. Me and the mom are split, and then I visit him whenever I travel, basically. But, yeah.
Your relationship's good, though? I mean, you and the mom are cooperating and all that?
Yes. For parenting, our relationship is really good. If we live together, we'll try to kill each other. But
yeah, understandable. I get it. I feel, do you think life is luck, or do you think it's hard work, or do you think you're lucky and privileged to be where you are, or is there a certain...
There's a really, really good quote, and it's like, luck is opportunity meets preparation. So
I love that one.
Yeah, my life is very, very, very lucky. But I mean, like, I was prepared for the lucky breaks that came by. But I mean, like, the only reason I was prepared is because of luck, right? Like for the streaming stuff, for instance, the reason why nobody streamed in the early days is right now you use a program called OBS, right? Mm-hmm. So you use OBS and it does everything for you. Back in my day, you needed a program called, I think we used Camtasia was what it was called. So Camtasia was a program that just captured your video device and then it outputted into another box. And then you would have to download a program. We used a program called Virtual Audio Cable. Virtual Audio Cable is a program that would route different audio channels to one output. So you'd use Virtual Audio Cable, you'd set up multiple channels so that all of your audio would be routed to one thing. Then you'd have your camera. Then we used another program called Flash Media Live Encoder. And then you'd have to go and find an encoder that you could plug into that program. And then with Flash Media Live Encoder, you would route the Camtasia output output to the virtual audio cable output, and then all of that would be routed to an RTMP server that you would use to stream. This is like how we had to stream like that. And when we did that, we had 400 kilobits a second to fucking stream. So like the fact that I was able to figure all that shit out like gave me a huge head up, because no offense, but most gamers and people are just like tech retarded. I don't know much at all. And I was able to figure all that out. But the only reason I was able to figure that out is because I was lucky enough to grow up like with a family computer in the family room. So I was able to mess around with stuff, right? So that's like I put in the work to figure out all the streaming stuff, but I was lucky that I grew up in an environment where I could even be exposed to computers and shit, right?
Yeah, I get that. Because a lot of people would call me lucky a lot, and it kind of aggravates me to some extent because it discredits all the work that I put into. Like I did not settle, and that's very rare. A lot of people settle for a career that they're like, oh, I'm not going to make it. Let me just settle for this option. It's the safest option. And I refused to settle forever. And I didn't make a video that went viral until I was 31 years old, and it worked to my benefit. And I think that a lot of people discredit how much work and honor and courage it goes into this whole thing. So I always want to talk to people and see do they think it's luck or think what it is. But I agree that a lot of the situations that I've been in were luck.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't prepared for those opportunities or willing to have the courage to seize them, then I wouldn't have been in this place. So it's like some constant duality between two things.
Yeah, I think I tend to push. It just depends on who I'm talking to, because some people will say things like, "Oh, like there was no luck involved whatsoever," and it's like, bro, you're lucky to be born in the United States. You could have been born in Somalia or something, So that in and of itself is already kind of lucky. But then other people say like, "Oh, like it's all luck. Like if you're a billionaire, you're just lucky," and it's like nobody becomes a billionaire by being just lucky, right? Like there's going to be some amount of like high skill work, or like, oh, CEOs don't do anything. It's like, come on, dude. So yeah, I mean, there's a balance. Like I said, I think it's that. Luck is opportunity meets preparation, and the opportunity sometimes can be lucky. That's like a lucky break, but and the preparation can be lucky. But there's also like skill that goes into both, right? Opportunity can be you busting your ass to network in the right ways to meet the right people, and then the opportunities present themselves because you put yourself in an environment where those opportunities show up. Or the preparation could be that you do some menial labor or some job in college or something like that, and then in the future, like you are more prepared for an opportunity that comes by as well. Yeah.
So what advice would you give, young men and women that are trying to seize the opportunity and when it's the luck shows? Like, growing up, age 18, however old you want to start at.
Yeah, my stuff is so cringe, and it might just because I have super ADHD and nobody likes to hear it. If I could go back in time and give myself like one, like you have to do this thing, I would say like at the very least, 30 minutes a night on homework. Just like focus more on school. It helps you so much in life. There's so much of your life is improved if you just try a little bit harder in school. I could have had like a full ride scholarship to college. Like I know obviously things worked out well for me, but like I was just so fucking lazy in school. And the thing is when you're in school, you don't realize how much life sucks until you're out of school. And then you have to work a shit job and you have to work every fucking day to pay bills in a place that you don't like for a life that you hate, that you're trapped in forever. And all you're thinking is like, I'm going to work at 7-Eleven today, and I could have just like spent 30 more minutes on my Algebra 1 homework. So I'd say study more. I say another thing I would say is that's one, and another thing I say, don't take your health for granted. So like just a little bit of like exercise or working out. Like I don't think there's any reason not to be into like strength training if you're like a young person. It could be going to the gym twice a week, but whatever it is, like starting those habits early on, they stay with you for life. And if you go too far gone, like if you get into like the obese BMI range, coming back is so fucking hard. As long as you have your health, you should like pay at least the slightest bit of attention to things like diet and exercise. Again, it doesn't have to be like 7 days a week. Like I'm only eating like the purest of foods, but just like a little bit of attention to it, I think is good.
Yeah, I eat really healthy, and then yesterday I had 2 Cokes and a Sprite, so I was, divulging, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
So the transition you made from, your League of Legends pro streaming to being more of like, I don't know, social justice warrior. I don't know what you would call yourself.
Yeah, I'm like the old school social justice warrior. Like the new ones today are kind of crazy. I'm like the old school one who's like, dude, I think gay people should be able to get married. But like the new school ones are like everything is white supremacy and slavery and shit. I don't know. I'm not. I guess I'm like, if the new people are here and like Bill Maher is here, I'm like somewhere in the middle. I think, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen actually one take of yours was talking about the whole fat phobia, fat shaming thing. You're like, it was a great idea at first, but then it just transforms into something that it's not supposed to be. And I think that a lot of stuff is happening that way that you're talking about. I mean, just one, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the fall of the society that we live in. And this is towards the end of it, maybe? I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure everybody probably feels that way, that we're like at the end times. I'm sure we've always felt that way. Maybe it's true this time, but Yeah, I mean, like it's always like there's always a good idea, and then f***ers take it too far and f*** up.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes. Yeah.
Well, like when I first kind of realized like, hey, I can be something more than just a douchebag, I started following Occupy Wall Street at the time. So this was 11 years ago or so.
I
And what was
remember.
happening at Zuccotti Park and Tim Pool, he was just blowing up in Washington, you know. And I was watching this live stream with like 15 to 14 people, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I was going to parades and marching, you know, and this was I think when Obama and Ron Paul were running against each other.
I was a
And I
huge
actually
Ron
liked
Paul
Ron
fan.
Paul, you
Yeah,
know. I mean, I liked Ron Paul.
I was
What'd you
obsessed with
say?
Ron Paul in college. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of good points, and there hasn't been someone like him since then. I don't know. I don't know.
I feel like
personally,
Bernie Sanders was kind of a Ron Paul. He energized like young people with like kind of like a lot of pretty new revolutionary ideas and made them like really hyped and excited.
but he was too. I don't know. Ron Paul was kind of like a more of a manly figure. I don't know. Bernie seemed just like a kid sometimes, which I guess would be good.
I mean, Ron Paul literally delivered kids, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he had a lot of good takes about the Middle East, like, hey, give them the resources they need rather than, you know, occupying their land, and then they won't come bomb us, which
Sure.
was a great point.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
What do you think about race?
You mean like couch to 5K or? I'm just fucking with you.
good.
Well, I mean, like what? I mean, like what? That's a really broad question.
Well, scientifically speaking, right? There's not enough genetic differences to define a separate human race.
Sure.
So it is a cultural thing. Do you think that is a good thing to have, or is it something that we should dissolve?
I mean, like, well, regardless of how we feel, I mean, like, there are people that look different.
Right.
Yeah. So that's always going to be a thing. There's no way to escape that.
Well, some people have brown eyes. People have blue eyes. They look different.
Yeah.
Some people are 6'3". Some people are 5'11". They look different.
Yeah.
So why would it be? This is something that gets me going. That's why I brought it up. Because whenever you go to fill out an application, it says, "What race are you?" You know, it's almost, to me, it's racist to do that in a sense. You know what I mean? It's almost provoking the idea, and then you hear the news media just pick whites, blacks, Mexicans over and over, Latinos, and they just spray it. Now I understand that also there's people who are more beneficial in society based on how it's been shaped over hundreds of years here in the United States, and so on and so forth. But I think that I personally think it should be dissolved somewhat. That we should stop identifying people based on that.
I mean, we can say that, but like, I mean, there's still going to be black people and brown people and Asian people and white people and indigenous people. Like, I don't think there's any way we could ever escape that reality, right?
Right. I just feel like that maybe society should be somewhat reshaped around those ideologies. But it's hard to do that because there's so many different cultures and people cling to their identity, and that's their identity. And for someone to just shake that identity, it's not possible unless something traumatizing happens to them where they rethink or they get a bit of knowledge that says, oh my goodness, I've been thinking this way for so long. But then a lot of people have cognitive dissonance and they don't want to do that, and it's a mess. It's just something I wanted to talk to you about. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm gonna say the same thing I did before about like a good idea. Like, I think that recognizing race and I think recognizing the realities of our history is important. It just gets a little bit cringe when people get too obsessed with it. When it becomes like the defining feature of your existence, I think it's probably not good.
Yeah, I mean, I personally have a problem with people who make something their entire personality. Like people that go to the gym and all they talk about is the gym, and I'm a gym. And it's just like, or certain people that are in social limelights that just make something their entire personality and they run with it. But at the same time, I think even XQC mentioned it. I played a role and it got me famous. The villain role or whatever it is, and I just don't know how can you take society away from wanting to see that and wanting to consume that so much. Like, how do we train people to not be interested in that, in a sense? I know it's wording sort of.
Yeah, no, I mean, my guess is going to be that some of this is probably pretty baked in to like human like biology, that we like to identify with certain groups, people that look like us, or at the very least people that are raised like us. We tend to identify more with. That's probably just a really innate thing for humans that is hard to just like wipe away, if I had to guess.
Do you believe everything is innate, or are you a little bit nurture, a little bit nature?
No, I mean, there's some combination of both, but I mean, like the more like there's going to be some things that are more deeper instilled in us than other things, right? It just depends on what we're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, for instance, what I just said there, like, we tend to like people. I said initially we tend to like people that look like us and everything, and then I corrected it to we tend to like people that are raised around us. People think that we like people that look like us, and we're tribalistic in that sense. We are tribalistic, but it's not about people that look like us. It's about people that we were raised around. That's actually like the most important thing. So, if that's why a lot of people in cities tend to feel differently about different races of people than people raised in urban or rural environments where you don't have as many like people of color, right? Because you just don't see them. And if you're raised around somebody, you tend to have more favorable views of them. You tend to humanize them more. If you don't, then you don't humanize them more. So yeah.
Yeah, I was raised in Orlando, and then my wife was raised in a small town. So I definitely can relate to what you're talking about. She can see it. I can see it. We talk about it with our families and the differences. And my dad was, born in Alabama. So, and it was it was a good time for him, I guess. But there's a lot of stuff I don't agree with from him.
Sure.
Which I've changed my personality around those things. I had something else I was going to talk about right there. Oh, freedom of choice. Choice. What do you feel about choice? Is there free will? No free will? What do you think?
No, I'm a hardcore determinist, but
You don't believe in free will at all?
no.
I guess we're not going to have anything to talk about then.
Why, do you not either?
Oh, no, not at all. It's not real. But people get really upset about that because I at the same time, I don't believe in free will, but then I also tell people, hey, believe in this scenario, believe, and you work towards this goal. And I don't have an answer for that either. But if you believe and you're disciplined and you stay the course, same thing as the river that formed the Grand Canyon. It was just water, and that water hit that rock for millions of years, and it made one of the greatest canyons in the world. So you have to be persistent in everything you are, but there is no free will. I study Dr. Robert Sapolsky. He's a neurobiologist at Stanford.
Yeah, we've watched a lot of his lectures for
I love
race
him.
reality debates. Yeah,
and that brings me to politicians. It's like I don't understand why politicians are there. Like, why aren't we having people like Dr. Robert Sapolsky determine what laws and this and that and how to shape society? Why is it these guys with law degrees and business degrees that put on makeup and go in TV and lie and panhandle for lobby money by industries to just create this shit society that we live in? I don't understand why it keeps continuing. Like, when it's blatantly obvious that there are men and women in this world who have extreme intelligence, extreme knowledge, and extreme scientific backing that could build a society where we have less of the atrocities that we have.
Well, I mean, people like that don't like to be politicians, right?
I know. I would never be a politician. But I mean, so what do you think? What about emperors?
Seems like there's a lot of problems with that style.
Well, I mean, some of them worked really well, some of them really bad.
Yeah.
Like Marcus Aurelius.
I think the U.S. empire right now is probably the greatest empire I think that's ever existed in the history of the world, I would say. And that was done democratically, so I guess I'm leaning towards that, being favorable towards that model of world domination, I guess.
Because I read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I actually named my son Aurelius after him. So I was hoping that maybe he'll make some change. I'll put some pressure on him real early,
Okay, that's pretty rough, but okay. This is my son Aristotle. Yeah, I got high hopes for him. Yeah, okay.
And then I named my daughter after Ray Skywalker.
Okay.
Cool. I don't know if you don't like that one or not. A lot of people didn't like Ray. I don't know why.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of her development in the series, I guess, compared to other characters. But
well, what about Luke? Luke was on a farm whining about high school, fixing stuff, and she was born in a Jakku desert with no parents. I mean, why wouldn't she be stronger than Luke off rip? That was my point all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like in universe, there might be legitimate reasons, but I feel like for when we're looking at like classic stories of like heroes, archetype stuff, I feel like what we want to see is a character being like really dog shit, and then the character it's typically like character starts, characters confronted with challenge that they can't overcome. They're defeated by said challenge. They go through some arc where they self-improve, and then they come back and they defeat said challenge. And I feel like if you're missing that defeated part, then the victory part doesn't feel as satisfying, right? So like it's satisfying to see Luke beat Darth Vader because when he'd fought him previously, he had his hand chopped off. He wasn't even a match. It was just he was not even close. And the person that trained Luke also died to Darth Vader. So when he finally overcomes at the end, it feels like it's a big rewarding feeling. And I feel like for Rey, we were missing that because it seemed like she was always defeating every single person she came up against like pretty quickly. And it feels like yeah. Well, I don't want to make you hate your daughter's name though. I'm sorry. Damn, I'm not trying to argue.
No. You won't. I like her.
Yeah.
I enjoyed her. Well, what I enjoyed the most about the series, even though they switched directors and kind of messed it up a little bit, but what I enjoyed the most was Kylo. You know, his thing was, I'm going to finish what you started, talking about Vader. And essentially he was able to save the one he loved by the Force, using the Force without being at the dark side. So he saved Rey's life, which was what he was trying to do with Padme, which was kind of poetic to me. But I don't know, a lot of people didn't like it.
Yeah, I thought that was okay. I really don't know why, and I really don't like the idea of them changing directors between each movie.
That was a terrible idea.
That was like whiplash, because the whole concept of the first movie, of the second movie, that like, oh, like Rey's story could be anybody's. Anybody can be this or that. It was like, oh, cool. That's kind of interesting. Because typically when it comes to Star Wars, we think of like, you know, Anakin was the child born of the Force and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, Rey could be anybody. And then in the third movie, it's like, no, actually, she's the granddaughter of the most like genetically midichlorian gifted fucking person of all time. And it's like, okay, well.
Yeah, I think they should have went with, who was the guy that trained Palpatine? Plagueis. I think they should have, but it would have been obvious that they were doing that.
Well, people are saying they changed directors in the original trilogy as well. Is that true? I thought that George Lucas was for all three. I had no idea. Okay. Everybody's saying they had different. Enough people are saying it in my chat that I feel like it's probably true, so I won't fight with them. Okay.
Do you watch anime?
I used to, but I just don't have the time. But I used to quite a bit.
What was your favorite animes?
My top three. Are you a big anime fan?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is gonna be ultra cringe because they're all very accessible. It's going to be the most accessible animes ever. But the top three, I don't know what order they'd be in, but it's going to be Cowboy Bebop, Death Note, and then Steins Gate would be my top three.
I don't know what Steins Gate is, but I've seen the other two.
Oh, okay.
Death Note, you know what's so funny? Is Death Note lost me after he killed L.
I mean, almost everybody says that, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay. You know, the protagonist is dead. Or not the protagonist, but the opposite.
Your antagonist, yeah.
I'm what? Yeah.
The antagonist, yeah.
That's not me right now, though. Not yet.
No. Or no, I was saying the word you were looking for was antagonist, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought you said anti-protagonist.
Oh, no. Antagonist, yeah. But, yeah, no, obviously it could have worked after that, but the next two people, Nier and Mello, were not, didn't do it. It wasn't as satisfying, for sure.
I had something else I wanted to talk to you about. I just can't remember what it was. Because we started talking about Rey Skywalker and I forgot.
We were talking about race before that. Should we move on from that? You mentioned children's names. You named your child Rey and
Marcus Aurelius.
Marcus Aurelius.
You don't like emperors. You don't like that idea.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, like it could work. Like the best emperor is probably better than the best democracy. But the worst emperor is so much worse than the worst democracy.
100% agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah. It would have to be like, you know, you watch Game of Thrones?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay, so like they were talking about Targaryen, when you flip a coin, you know, that's what happens when a Targaryen is born, they flip a coin. That would be basically what would happen with an emperor. So 11 years ago, I started something called the Human Society Project. And I created a Facebook and all that stuff and did all that. And my idea was that we could redevelop society based on the knowledge that we've talked about. You know, hey, it's nurture and, you know, use algorithms and technology to say survey the land. This amount of land can sustain this amount of people and so on and so forth, and kind of have an intelligent design behind society. Everyone made fun of me, laughed at me. I got really sad about it. And I just kind of buried my head in the sand for a while.
Sure.
And then eventually I gathered the strength to kind of try again, and it changed into uniting humanity. And my goal was to unite humanity under a singular purpose at some point. It may not be in my lifetime, but at some point, because if we don't do it, we'll cease to exist on the planet. Because, you know, in 200 million years, the sun will evaporate the oceans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we don't have a way to leave the planet or terraform Mars or terraform the moon or find, you know, get to... I forget the name of the star, but that's 4.2 light years away.
So like
we don't
Alpha
have any
Centauri
way
or something? I don't know.
That's what I always think it is, and then they're like, no, it's not that one. It's Sirius or something. So I can't remember which one it is. But to me, we don't have a way to be starfaring. So to me, we're on the brink of extinction right now. And if we don't do anything about it, we will cease to exist on this planet. And I think that there's something has to be done. Society has to be rewired. And that's just, of course, my opinion based on the limited amount of information that I've gathered in my 2.012 GPA in high school. So, like, what do I know? You know, I'm just another opinion-ridden person, but I don't want to make it my whole personality. So I like to be open and talk to people like you. And I even enjoy talking to Tristan. My wife and I talked to Tristan. He, you know, it wasn't as bad as the clips. And I know Tristan's a different animal than Andrew. They're different in a lot of aspects, but it was enjoyable. And the one thing I brought up was like, what do you think about lying? Do you lie?
Did you ask him that, or are you asking me that?
I'm asking you and him. I asked him. He said, "Yeah, I lie." Basically.
Yeah, I do. I shouldn't, but I do. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what kind of lying is it like?
I mean, I think typically we lie when there's probably something we want to get, and we're being selfish, and then we lie to get it. Probably, yeah.
Well, at least you have some awareness towards it. I mean,
that probably makes it, having the awareness probably makes it worse.
I would agree. Yeah.
Because you should know better. Yeah.
You do seem like a very self-aware and willing to change person presented with new information. Because I originally saw you going after Andrew, and I was like, man, just leave Andrew alone. You're so smart. Just like stay away from that minefield. Like I hear it, and I'm like, you are so brilliant. Like, leave him alone. He's putting on a show. But then, you know, more came out, and I was like, oh, I guess maybe not. I don't know. You know, personally, I guess we'll see eventually. But
and yeah, my Andrew arc was funny because initially I was really hard on him. He made a big apology video when he came back, and I was like, you know what? Actually, maybe he's pretty chill. Michael, I'll give him a shot because I'm very sympathetic to people that are like, I get clipped a lot. What am I supposed to do? He's like, yeah, I get clipped a lot. I can empathize that 1,000,000%. And then I did more digging into the sex trafficking thing. I'm like, okay, I'm not too sure anymore. or no, actually, I'm pretty sure he's a full-on sex trafficker. But hey, I mean, everybody's got their opinions. Yeah.
Yeah. When all that came out, I was like, let me put this on private, just in case. You know, I don't want to be contributing to anything that's out of the world, but we'll see, I guess. And then Pearl, she's special sometimes with the you know, the one thing about these people that bothers me the most is how they deal in absolutes. And there's always exceptions, especially with the whole narrative that a mother can't raise a strong man, and that's just not true. There's so many scenarios in society. I mean, Bryce Hall is a famous TikToker. His dad showed him one time in his life, and I feel like Bryce Hall is a pretty good kid. I've heard him talk a few times. I mean, he's better one of the ones, at least. Kevin Durant, his mother raised him. You know, there's always exceptions to the rules. So I don't believe that there should be an absolute narrative, or, you know, how people say, oh, I don't think gays should be able to adopt. I think maybe in a lot of scenarios it's not healthy, but there are people who do a good job. And I don't like the whole absolute narrative that is happening. And for me, is why I really wanted to talk to you, is like, I want to unify humanity in some extent. I want to be the light that illuminates the darkness. You know, that's what I've always wanted to be. That's who I am. I want to bridge the gap in differences in society and make us reach a common goal, and that's the survival of humanity. So when I see you guys sparring back and forth, it's kind of aggravating. It's like, why can't we just get along like at a playground with a bunch of kids, you know? But at the same time, nobody's going to get millions of views if there isn't some type of controversy, because society is so depressed and just bored with life without having purpose. I mean, purpose is so rare in this world. Like, it's so hard to find. And when you don't have it, you're miserable. And it's tough. So these people consume the content that we create. And I even think most of my videos are stupid. I think they're so dumb, you know, but a lot of people find them funny. And sometimes I'm like, this video is terrible. It's going to do terrible. And then I get 1 million views and I'm like, well, okay. So.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it'll depend on what particular we're talking about. Like, for a lot of the stuff that I push back on, like, there's a lot of stuff that I think is genuinely, like, probably not good for society. So that's typically why I'll be pushing back on it. I wish we could get along, but I mean, like, I think there's probably a lot of genuine disagreement over, like, how society should function sometimes, you know? So, and for instance, if you're a red pill and you think that, like, the feminization of men is destroying society, like, you should be, you know, raging against it. It makes sense to me, because if this is, like, the most important thing to you, to make society run well, then I mean, yeah, you should be really mad about it. Or like vegans, like when vegans do like stuff in stores and everybody's like, oh, it's so cringy and blah blah blah. It's like, well, hey, listen, if you think animals are living, things like people, and you think that they ought to be saved, then I mean, yeah, it makes sense to me. I think vegans should go as hard as they do. Yeah.
But my thing about veganism has always been like, no giraffe is going to build a spaceship and leave this planet. All life will be extinct on this planet at some point. The only way that they're going to survive is if we keep them in embryos. We're not going to build a Noah's Ark spaceship and put 2 elephants in, and they will be saved through genetic testing in tubes, which is why I also don't think that the traditional roles are as important in a relationship, because you do not have to reproduce anymore. You have the ability to scientifically reproduce. It doesn't have to be mother, father, da 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 da. But I believe society should be more geared towards raising kids. So one of my daughters is a stepdaughter. She's not biologically mine. And a lot of red pillars will say I'm beta for doing that. And then to me, they're just idiots for saying that. It's absolutely stupid. I mean, it takes a village to raise children. And most villages in society, in the up and coming of society, raised all the children. The woman stayed and did this particular set of roles, and they raised the kids. And there's also Dr. Robert Sapolsky, for example. A lot of his with his chimpanzee tribe in Kenya that died off because of whatever happened, but they got into the tuberculosis meat and all that, and the alpha males, the ones that were the stressors, ended up going extinct, and it changed the entire fundamentals of that society to be more, I guess you could say, feminine.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know how I'm supposed to engage with that, but I mean, obviously I'm going to agree with you that like people that shit on like step parents or whatever are pretty dumb people. A lot of these red pillars that talk about like traditional family roles and traditional all that shit, like they don't even have children or families anyway. Like it's always funny that when there's like a 27-year-old like red pill YouTuber that's a woman, and it's like, well, where are your like 6 kids, like you're living your best feminist life right now, telling everybody to be traditional. And yeah, I don't know, it's kind of funny.
I know, because I have that relationship. I mean, I have it. Like, I have the traditional roles. Like, she's right now taking care of the kids while I do this. But I mean, I don't feel like I'm a red pillar in a lot of the aspects that these big red pillars are. Like, I just don't understand why people feel like they have such a strong opinion with no experience. You have to have experience to really understand something. Now, I made a lot of mistakes in life. I tried a lot of drugs and got in a lot of bad situations. Because I was curious. I wanted to know what the hate and disdain with all these things are in life. I went out and, drank and told girls everything they wanted to hear. You're beautiful. You're the most significant thing in the world. And then I would get laid, and the next day I would be like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I've done everything good and everything bad. Do you think multiple partners is okay? What do you think about multiple partners?
Well, I mean, that's my relationship right now, so I would say yeah, but.
Well, the only reason I don't agree with it is because I look at multiple partners as like a pleasure chase,
I mean, so it definitely is. Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I want to discipline myself, and what an opportunity that I have right here to strike down these impulsive urges for that pleasure. Now I do get significant amount of pleasure off of social media and going viral. So I pick my pleasures differently. Now I'm not going to be like, that guy's a fucking idiot because he does that. I'm just going to say I don't agree with that style of pleasure chase because I'm in a traditional family, whereas I don't want my daughters to have that situation happen to them where they have a guy has multiple partners, because I don't know. It's just an opinion. It's just my personal opinion. Yeah, it's not like a end all be all, Yeah,
to each their own.
I didn't think we were going to agree on just about everything.
Well, have you ever seen any clips of mine that you super disagree with? I guess that could be a starting point.
It just hasn't happened in a while. I can't even remember. One of the ones that I think it's just so old. It was the old Andrew Tate ones, because like at first I didn't get any good videos from you. I was like, I just don't like this guy. And then I saw one that was a really good take from you, and I was like, wow, finally a take I like. And then the algorithm just gave me a whole bunch of them I liked.
What was the one you saw that you were like, oh, I like this video or whatever? I'm curious.
If I remembered, I would tell you.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well. It was on TikTok?
Yes, it was TikTok.
Huh.
But like I said, I just thought you were picking a bad fight at first. Like I now I see like the ones you had with Pearl. I really liked your takes, because then she's like, well, wouldn't you say that you're the exception, or that's an exception? But yeah, it's an exception. Like, what are you even talking about? Like the angles that people take, But my wife takes charge in certain aspects. I'm not I'm not the one that's like, you need to do this. I'm not a micromanager. I wouldn't have married someone and had kids with them if I had to micromanage them. So she takes charge in a lot of things. It doesn't make me feminine for letting her do that. It's just the roles that we have in our family. And I think that people have this idea of what a real relationship that's functioning is, and it's bullshit. These people they have no clue what they're talking about with the feminine toxic masculinity and all this stuff. There are times when I tell her, we are not going to do that. I am in charge. That is not how it's going to go. But I only do that because I see the most efficient and effective way to do it right now. And then I show her, I'm very kind and courteous in how I show her. And then she says, you know what, you were right there. Or there's times where she's done that to me. And I've said, you know what, you were right there. And that doesn't make a man and woman thing. It's a human being rational and another human being rational. And this goes back to the whole race thing. It's like, I think that should dissolve. But I also think that the man and woman thing should be dissolved. Like, we should be just looked at as human beings at the fundamental part. And that obviously, you know, I can fight a lot of women, but any MMA fighter would choose Ronda Rousey over me every day of the week. I can't fight, and I'm a man. So it's like there's another exception to these. It's just, I don't know. I'm rambling, but
no, I mean, I think I largely agree with you. Like, I think that some people are suited towards things and other people aren't. And it's good to just go with what your strengths are. Men probably tend to be better at some things, and women probably tend to be better at other things. But, you know, if the roles are reversed, there's no, like, shame in that. There's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, I think it's stupid otherwise to pretend that, like, oh no, like, I can't let my, like I have personal examples of my family where, like, the woman is like, oh no, like, the man is supposed to lead and I'm supposed to follow. And it's like, bro, you could do this so much better than your husband. Like, what are you doing? And it's like, oh, you know, well, that's his job. And it's like, you're so stupid. But, you know, people get really.
I'm the same way. It's like, why would I want to do something that she's better at than me? Like, why would I want to do it for pride, for ego? I don't understand. What do you think about narcissism? I mean, we're all narcissists, right? You agree?
No. Not in the, like, in clinical sense of the word. I mean, we all we all are a little bit, like, attention hungry, right? I think that's a pretty normal human thing to be. But, like, yeah, I mean, you have to have some level of, you've got to have some level of pride or ego to be a functional human, I think, right? Any small business owner has to have some level of pride in themselves. Any artist has to have some level of pride in their art. I think that's, like, a pretty normal, expected thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, everyone has an ego. Essentially, there is no self without ego. I mean, the fact that you can think of yourself as I am Andrew or I am Destiny, that's an ego in itself. And you would try to survive and acquiesce your pleasure, your dopamine, right? And in doing that, that's essentially a narcissistic thing. There's different levels and different types of narcissists. But I think
I don't like using the word narcissist here because that's a really loaded word.
Yeah, because of society and in the world you live in. Yeah, I get it. Because I used to get mad. I'm not a narcissist. And then I started to kind of understand that maybe I am in some ways. Maybe,
Yeah, we're all a little narcissistic to some extent. Every normal, well-functioning human probably should be, right?
Right. All right. Well, I think that's it. That's all I got. Thank you.
Well, what do you want to do, I guess, in the future going forward with your YouTube channel? Like, what are you trying to do, I guess?
Okay. Yeah. So I just kind of want to be more of, like, the podcast and intelligent conversation things. But I almost want to be like, you know, how a magician has a beautiful target that he throws knives at type thing. Not that I want to throw knives at her, but she's just the beautiful one and I'm the bold one, and we talk and she shares her experience, I share mine. I'm obviously going to be a much more bolder than her, but that's just the direction we want to go. I mean, if you want to come to my studio here in my garage, that's fine too. If you're interested in that, it's up to you. I'm not a swinger, so don't expect me to, like, put my finger in your butt or anything.
That's okay.
But yeah, I mean,
if there's ever, like, a specific topic or anything you ever want to hash out, or if you have, like, an idea for a show or something, I mean, I can probably always,
I was trying to prepare my best for this, the way I just didn't know how you felt about certain things, you know. My main thing is I just want society to be healthier as a whole, you know, and I know that it gets exaggerated, this toxic masculinity and then the feminine and all this stuff. And I think really what it is there's a group of people who aren't getting respected, and through social media, they've found a way to get the attention that you wouldn't get 30, 40 years ago because you weren't a cool person that was a winner that got the job easy, or, you know, was a high school football standout. Now you get a job anywhere you want. You don't have that happening as much because people have such a bigger voice now on social media and the narratives that are happening. And a lot of tech companies and everyone, they're getting scared of everything. You know, they don't want to step on anyone's toes. They don't want to get canceled. Like you said some things today. I was like, oh man, I never say that. I can't say that. And you said something about that's retarded or something. I was like, I can't say that. Like, how come you can say that? Can I say that? Because I had to change my, like, I've been trying to change my dialogue. Like when someone, I don't know, you see someone that's not doing something or you're like, you're a fucking pussy, but I can't, that pussy like is such a sexist term. Like, is there another way to slight a man without calling him a female? Like,
woman,
you
yeah.
pussy, bitch, cunt.
Yeah.
Like, how else so I start calling people corn puffs. That's the best I got so far. I don't know what else to say. I don't want to call them stupid because, you know, everyone has some capacity for intelligence in some way. There's people that, you know, are mechanics that probably have the worst opinions in the world about certain things, but they're great mechanics, and I don't know anything about being a mechanic. So, you know, the whole judge a fish by his ability to climb a tree, you'll call everyone stupid thing.
Sure.
But yeah, that's kind of what I want to do. So you switched from League of Legends. Is just, why'd you switch? You just started switching? I mean,
well, originally I was a pro StarCraft player. Then I switched to League because StarCraft was dying. And then I
played Han a lot. Do you know what Han is? Heroes of New Earth?
Jeez, I know what Heroes of New Earth was. Yeah,
that's what I loved. So when I came back to the scene, I'm like, I don't like Dota 2 and I don't like League of Legends. I want Han back, but nobody plays it.
No, I don't. Does Han? I thought that game actually shut down. Is it still going?
I have no idea.
Oh yeah. Poor Han people. Yeah. Yeah. Well, damn. Anything
Were they
else?
talking shit about me the whole time in chat, or what? Were they nice to me?
I think they're okay-ish. You sound a little crazy.
Oh, so they were talking shit.
Well, no, if they were talking shit, I'll tell you. You sound a little manic, I'd say. But
manic?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
What does that mean?
Like the idea of like I want to bring the world together and I want everybody to be happy and healthy. Like that's kind of like almost like a manic feeling.
I don't even know what it means, but okay.
I
didn't pay attention to school.
No, that's good. Well, no, that's not good. Mania, I guess, is like when you have these like hugely overwhelming feelings of like you're ready to change the world and like everything is big and huge and like you're gonna go out and like do like everybody's gonna be you're gonna change the world like on your own. Is that kind of like it's like a manic feeling basically? You're like on top of the world. You're feeling super euphoric. Have you done cocaine before?
Yeah.
Okay. I like a cocaine high should leave you feeling like very manic. Like you're like on top of the world. You're ready to fucking crush everything. You're super confident. You're ready to go. Like mania. That's like mania, I'd say.
That's why I do what I do, so I can get that high without doing cocaine.
Sure. Well, yeah. No, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it as long as you stay grounded. Yeah.
Well, this is what I think. All right, you know, just me. The way I view the world and all that is like, say, eternity, for instance, right? Is this huge pond, and on the shore of that pond are 8 billion pebbles, and all those pebbles are the same exact size. You throw a pebble into that pond, it's going to send ripples and reverberations, and it's going to change the trajectory of the surface of the water forever. It will always be different. So I may seem manic, but I will make a difference in that aspect. And everybody has the ability to be that pebble and go into the pond. The only difference in the pebbles is the speed and tenacity at which the pebbles hit the water. So, I mean, it may seem egotistical, but you brought up the cocaine high. I mean, I did a lot of drugs, and the only substitute for those drugs is purpose, a purpose greater and bigger than myself. So yes, in that sense, I would agree with him. So that is why I do what I do, is because I was so torn apart by life, didn't know what to do, had no meaning, no value, just had to get pleasure to you know, take that feeling of being a loser away. And I didn't know what to do. So I developed a goal that's I probably will never see the results for. But I mean, I just worked towards it, and it's driven me and put me in a great position to win. So
yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Thank you, chat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where'd your Twitch get taken down?
When or why?
When or both?
I think it was like 8 months ago, and I don't know. We were arguing about like trans topics, and somehow I got the axe.
So they won't let you come back at all?
I don't know. I'll try again in 4 months. I think I can appeal, and then we'll see what happens.
A year? You have to wait a year?
It's 6 months, and I just did my last appeal 2 months ago, and they rejected it. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
You like YouTube more though, right?
Well, I'm not banned from YouTube, so yeah. But no, the rules and the guidelines are a bit clearer on YouTube, so yeah.
Yeah, you just don't know why you get in trouble on Twitch.
Yeah,
sometimes.
it's just frustrating for me.
Which I don't know why they would do that when they're competing with. I mean, YouTube, from what I understand, doesn't really have a streaming team. They don't really focus on that. They just, their streaming division isn't that big.
Yeah.
Or non-existence at all. So I would assume that the CEO just stepped down, right? So there's going to be some changes coming.
And nobody knows. The inside of Twitch is like
The
pretty.
CEO of YouTube.
Of YouTube.
Yeah.
For YouTube doesn't have to do anything. They have the. Oh yeah. Because you're talking about Susan just stepping down. YouTube doesn't really do much for their streaming shit. It just kind of works. I don't think they I don't know if they actively manage it or anything. They just. Yeah.
Yeah, because I got support from Mr. Beast's creator juice thing. I don't know if you know what it is or not, but his manager, Cooperstein or whatever his name is,
okay.
He was talking about if YouTube wanted to, they could just take Twitch down.
Yeah, it feels like it, but it always feels like they're always very tepid when it comes to their messing with their streaming stuff. I don't know why. I don't understand. But yeah, I mean, it's working now, so.
Would you be interested in having future conversations? I'll probably get some better topics to talk about. I don't know if was this okay for you?
Yeah, this is fine, yeah. Just let me know whatever you want to. Wait, what did you say?
This wasn't the worst one you've had, right?
I've had way worse conversations. You're fine. Yeah, but just usually the best conversations I have, because I'm a toxic piece of shit, is around big points of disagreement. But I'll also talk about random stuff anyway too. If there's something random that comes up you want to chat about.
Well, I gotta figure out what I can disagree with you on.
What'd you figure out?
I mean, I'll have to.
Oh yeah, well.
I want to get clicks too,
Yeah, true.
But thank you, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem, dude. Yeah, if anything comes up or if you can think of anything, just let me know.
Yeah, I'll send you a dick pic on Discord later.
Cool, sounds good.
All right, thank you, man.
Yeah, have a good one.